Greetings from the afternoon, everyone. Or at least that's when I'm beginning to write this script. Exams are over! Yay! Or at least they are for me. Midterms and whatnot. I've been kind of stressed because of that, but it's a nice relief to be able to make videos again. So let's talk about Arcane, because I'm still just a wee bit, just maybe a little obsessed. But like usual, there's gonna be some spoilers. I highly advise you to watch all of Arcane before this video. I'll be talking about big plot points from literally the very beginning to the very end. So please keep that in mind. And if you haven't seen it, just click off, maybe come back, or if you don't care, you can watch it. But just saying, Arcane's really, really good. So, I wouldn't spoil it if I were you. That being said, please like and subscribe if you enjoy, and let's get into it. I understand now the message hidden in the pattern, the reason for our failures in the commune. The doctor was right. It's inescapable. Humanity, our very essence, our emotions. Rage, compassion, hate. Two sides of the same coin, inextricably bound. That which inspires us to our greatest good is also the cause of our greatest evil. This quote stuck out to me when I was watching Arcane for the first time. Of course, there are a lot of things which stick out to you in Arcane. It's very emotional, might also just be some big plot points. Or, things like this. Like quotes, which you need to think about a lot. Or at least it's just nice too. This quote in particular, Viktor says in Season 2, Episode 6, which is titled, "The Message Hidden Within the Pattern." And it's really integral to Arcane. It embodies a lot of the emotion and the conflict which characters have with each other. You could say it's like a core idea of Arcane, So I've been thinking about it a lot, and I want to talk about it. So yeah, Viktor says this. Just moving right in. Viktor says this, right? So I think the best thing to talk about first is Viktor and Jayce and how it applies to them. Specifically, that which inspires us to our greatest good is also the cause of our greatest evil. The thing that I think inspires Viktor to say this most directly is when Jayce kills Viktor, right? He says it immediately after, or I guess he thinks it technically, but I think that is probably the most direct reason why he says this. I'm just gonna call it Viktor's moral, because I think that's a good name. So what Viktor's moral comes from, seemingly most directly, is, Jayce killing Viktor, because Jayce is trying to do something good. He's trying to stop the alternate reality that he saw from becoming reality for him, right? But in doing that, he destroys the community that Viktor helped build up in the Undercity of people who are healthy and happy. He kills Viktor. And, from a more wider perspective, Vander dies again. Jinx and Vi are separated from Vander, which obviously hurts them. And it also is part of the cause of Viktor's final arc, which we'll talk about more in a few minutes. Which is basically the exact opposite of what Jayce wanted to do, with killing Viktor. He was trying to prevent the alternate reality, but kinda, sorta brings it closer to that happening. So, it is a cause of the greatest evil, even though it was something that he wanted to do the greatest good with, I'm sure you get it, right? But there are other examples of this with Viktor and Jayce. Specifically with Viktor for a second, Viktor worked a lot on the hex core, so he wanted to develop it and got frustrated that he was having trouble with that. So to try and connect to it on like a deeper level, he reaches his hand towards it and connection thingies happen. But Sky walks in and sees, the room swirling with energy. He sees, or she, sees Viktor like convulsing, seemingly in pain, so she tries to help him. But of course, as you may remember, that kills Sky. Or I guess Sky goes into Viktor's head or something, but it kills her, okay? So Viktor's trying to connect to the hex core to develop hex tech to do good with. But that also, backfires and kills Sky. With Jayce and Viktor, both of them, Jayce revives Viktor with the hex core, but because he's trying to help his friend, but Viktor's upset by that. He's like, why am I alive? You should have destroyed the hex core. Even though Jayce was just trying to do something good, he kept the hex core going, which obviously leads into issues, but it also just hurts Viktor as well. Jayce wanted to do something good for him, but he hurt him. And, Viktor leaves, which, of course, he later is like, that wasn't a good decision, but still, the point is that hurt him, even though Jayce just wanted to help. But Viktor's moral doesn't just apply to Viktor and Jayce. It actually applies to a lot of characters. Some other main characters applies to are Jinx and Vi, and it may happen that the next thing we're gonna talk about is them. So talking about Jinx and Vi, right? The idea of inspiring to your greatest good is also the cause of your greatest evil. Actually, it doesn't come up a ton. I tried to look through a good amount of Arcane. I rewatched some episodes. I scanned through some others. For the sake of getting this video out in a decent amount of time, I didn't search for more than probably 6 hours. But I couldn't find much other than in the prologue. When they're kids. And there are two main things that I think this applies to. First of all, Vi tries to turn herself in to protect everybody else, right? Which is a noble act. She's being really courageous there and trying to help everybody. But it also kind of sets up the situation where Silco kills Benzo and takes Vander. Not that it's Vi's fault. She was just trying to help. She was just trying to do something good, but still, that is how it turned out. It set that up. Even though it's not really an evil thing, it is pain and suffering. The other example, chronologically, and you might be thinking of this already, is Powder trying to help her family with the prototype hex cores. I don't really remember if they're hex cores or not, but that's not the point. She goes to Silco's warehouse to help all of them get Vander out. But, as you probably remember, it does not go good. it results in the death of Milo, Clagger, and Vander. And also, it like causes Vi to leave Powder and call her a Jinx. Which all of that is some of, the most important plot and some of the strongest emotion, I'd say, that's in the show. But other than that, there's not a ton. I mean, maybe I missed something, but I couldn't find anything like major with it. But, it's a pretty long quote. It's not that long, but, there's another part of it which does, I think, actually apply pretty strongly. Just gonna reread part of it. Rage, compassion, hate. Two sides of the same coin, inextricably bound. Now, this does apply a lot to so much of Jinx and Vi's relationship throughout the show, both with each other and with other people to a degree. But let's just talk about it, right? Of course, this can be interpreted in multiple ways. The rage, compassion, hate being different sides of the same coin. For example, with Ambessa, when Rictus is killed, her guard, by Vander, she gets angry because she cares about Rictus. Compassion turns to rage at Vander, or generally just at everyone involved, really. And hate for Vander, who did it, who killed him. But the way that this applies to Jinx and Vi, I think, has more to do with betrayal. They care about each other. I would say throughout the entire show, that doesn't change at any point. Even though there's some points where they're angry at each other, they even hate each other, they still care. You can see this even early on, again in the prologue, where Powder feels betrayed by Vi because Vi left her behind. Powder cares about Vi, which we can see later on, but she's angry because she feels betrayed by Vi because Vi left her, even though she still does care. You can see that later on, like I said, given there's some character development between there, but still, whenever she lights the flare, she is really relieved to see Vi. So even though she has rage, maybe even hatred, she still has that compassion. And this goes the other way, with Vi feeling betrayed by Jinx, whenever she grows up, by Jinx for hurting people, and also partially for just working with Silco, right? This has to do, she really cares about Jinx, or Powder. I'm gonna say Jinx because that's after she's Jinxified, I guess. She has a lot of compassion for Jinx, but she gets angry seeing how she's changed, which has its own other ideas in it, but still has to do with this, right? And they also have some other conflicts outside of just the two of them. For example, Vi and Caitlyn, right? They care about each other. They clearly have compassion for each other. But whenever they're hunting down Jinx, and they get to her, and Caitlyn almost kills Isha, Vi gets upset. Understandably so. But Vi gets really upset and feels betrayed by the fact that Caitlyn would even think of taking that shot. Also because, she's changed, which again has another idea to it, but we're not getting into that, or this video will be an hour long. So, Vi feels betrayed by Caitlyn. Even though she has compassion for her, she also feels maybe not necessarily rage and hatred, but similar feelings like disgust or honestly probably a bit of rage and pain as well. And then you can see that with Jinx and Silco. Whenever Silco, quote unquote, lies about Vi's death, obviously it's not just lying, but point is, Jinx gets real upset because she feels betrayed by Silco because, Jinx cares about Vi. And when Jinx hears that she's alive and Silco says she isn't, she gets angry. She has compassion for Silco, but also rage and maybe even a bit of momentary hatred. And there are more people we could talk about, more characters, some other solitary events, which would probably serve as great examples too. But for the sake of getting this video done in a decent amount of time, I don't want to go back and rewatch the whole thing and meticulously take notes. Obviously, that could be fun, but I want to get this out without it being even later. So, of course, there are other examples, and I'd love to hear them, but, in the comments we can talk about them, have a happy, nerdy zone. But, let's circle back to Viktor's final arc. I mentioned it before. Jayce tries to kill Viktor, but, to stop the alternate reality from being his reality. But, it pushes Viktor into having his moral in his mind becoming a lot more extreme. In the quote itself, there's some undertones of resentment for humanity. It's not that strong, but, it's kind of there. He seems annoyed with imperfection, and that annoyance becomes resentment, and that becomes a want to destroy humanity entirely. That's, his final arc, right? So it plays off of his moral in that way, and it defines the rest of Viktor's existence in the show, basically. But along with that, guess what? It's also there. Even though he's trying to destroy humanity, he falls right into what being human is, and that is, according to part of the quote, inspiring, greatest good stuff also is bad, evil stuff. But what inspires you to your greatest good also causes your greatest evil. In trying to destroy humanity, he's trying to get rid of all of the evil in the world and the hatred and the pain that people cause each other. And that's, a good thing. But as he learns from his future self, it would also destroy hopes and dreams. It would stop all of the good that humanity causes, feels. Even though all the evil would be gone, so would all the good. So it's also, or it could be, his greatest evil. And from that, from hearing that, he realizes his mistake and accepts that humanity can be beautiful and shouldn't be entirely eradicated. But the point is, it still applies, even though it's him trying to destroy humanity, he is still human. Of course, wrongs are righted by the end, but still, it was a part of Viktor's story until the very end. So I hope you can kind of see why I think it's the best quote in Arcane. Viktor's moral, that is. It's just so interesting. You know, for my first watch, I couldn't stop thinking about it, and then after watching the rest of Arcane and thinking about it more for fun, really, and going back to see it, it just fits in so perfectly. It really is beautiful, and it plays such a big role in the idea of so much of Arcane. It's crazy. You know, it's in the story of Viktor and Jayce. It's in the multiple stories of Vi and Jinx and so many other things. I mean, if you go back and rewatch it and you think about this sort of stuff, you're gonna notice it. I'm just saying, you will. It's there everywhere. And so it's just awesome. It's a fascinating quote, you know, fascinating with a capital F. And through this video, and maybe some thoughts of your own, I hope you can understand that perspective at least. And of course, you know, if you already thought of this, then at least you can hear someone else talk about just how amazing this quote is for being interesting, emotional, and a blast to think about. Thank you for watching. It's been very nice to make this. It's been fun so far, and it's just really nice to not be doing exams, because, you know, I had midterms and stressing about that for like 2 weeks. So now that that's done, and this video's gonna be made, and that'll be nice. We can get back rolling. Might not be a video next week. In fact, I'm just gonna say it. There's not gonna be one. Almost definitely. Because I have stuff with family for Christmas, which is fun. But, yeah, so don't expect a video next week. The week after, probably. But yeah, if you enjoyed, please consider liking and subscribing. You'll get to see some more similar content. Not on Arcane forever. Probably gonna go to talk about roguelike games for a while and see how that does. But, you know, similar humor, similar formatting sort of stuff. So, you know, if you like that, yeah. And I also just like seeing the funny numbers go up. But, for this video, I've been experimented with a bit of a looser script again. I did that for my last Arcane video. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on it, if it's okay or not. I think it's fun, you know, going a bit more off the cuff, so I can just talk about more stuff in more detail without worrying about reading the words on the page properly. But, you know, love to hear about it. A similar note, if you have any thoughts on what we talked about in this video, you know, please don't hesitate to talk about it in the comments. I'd love to discuss stuff. If you agree, disagree, if you have any specific thoughts on things, you know, I think it's fun to talk about this sort of stuff, and I'd love to hear it. So, but that's all. Before I start ranting, just gonna go. So, thank you for watching. See you next time. Bye!